And we're live. Okay, my friends and gems, welcome to Love and Money Secrets TV. I'm Dame Lillian Walker, your stem cell activation specialist and a neurosomatic practitioner, and my co-host here, Carol from Yelm, Washington. Hello, everyone. So we're going to talk today about the 8 neurosomatic systems of the body. So I've been inspired to share this with you guys today, and there are, in fact, 8 of them. And we're going to use an acronym. And this is the beginning of what the 8 neurosomatic systems are. And the 8 neurosomatic systems of the body are visual, auditory, kinesthetic, olfactory, gustatory. So again, it's kind of easy. And I'll talk about the others in just a moment because there's 3 more. So there's visual, auditory, olfactory, gustatory. There's kinesthetic, which is in your hands. And then you also have your interoceptive system. That means the gut feeling, the nervous lining inside your intestinal tract and your stomach. That's connected to, it's like your second brain. Some people call it the first brain, your gut system. And then the second brain would be the brain. So that's your interoceptive system. And then you have your proprioceptive system. Some of you are going, proprioceptive system. How do you even spell that word? And I'm going to write it out because some of you, some people pronounce it proprioceptive system. Some people pronounce it proprioceptive system. So that is proprioceptive system. And your proprioceptive system is part of your nervous system as well. And that is what we see, feel, think, hear, and touch inside your body, where you don't have to use your left brain to think about it. It's an innate, instinctive thing that is always in us. So, for example, when you get into your car, there's a difference when you're walking through a hallway, walking in a store, walking in a crowd of people, walking in your home. Your proprioceptive system is this grid that your brain generates. And you can think of your brain as kind of like a disco ball. And that disco ball has, of course, its literal size, right? But then it also has an energetic field that emanates from the brain. And so we call it that a toroidal field or a torus, but you have this proprioceptive grid that literally is 360 degrees all the way around the brain, and it goes to uncover and enclose your entire body. So if we were to we can actually measure your proprioceptive grid, separate from your aura, by the way, but keenly related to your aura. But the proprioceptive grid is an energy field of electricity. Actually, recently they were able to concur and to confirm that in that energetic field are little tiny particles of collagen. And if my proprioceptive grid that is emanating outside of my body, if I stand next to someone and let's say I'm stressed out and I'm anxious, I can actually influence and make that person anxious and increase their cortisol levels because those little tiny particles of collagen overlap into their field, in a sense, contaminating them with that same energy. So it's energy and it's actual particles with mass. They're just invisible to the naked eye. So your proprioceptive system comes outside of your body and it's part of your nervous system, and it is there to protect you so that you instinctively know, without having to think, without having to waste any mental energy, you can judge what distance it is. For example, if you're walking down a hallway, you know instinctively, you don't even think about it, you know the distance between your body and the wall on the left and on the right. If you're going to be walking up to a table, you know to stop a certain amount of distance before so you don't run into the table. Now, for someone whose proprioceptive system is in proper working order, not a big issue. For people who've had strokes, for people who've had neurological disorders, things like Parkinson's, myasthenia gravis, Guillain-Barré, multiple sclerosis, Parkinson's disease, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Any kind of people who are on the spectrum, if someone is autistic, could be very mildly neurotypical, atypical, or very grossly aneurotypical. So that's somebody that doesn't have a normal neurosomatic system of the body, especially their proprioceptive system. So you find that people whose proprioceptive system is either turned off or out of balance, they're constantly bumping into things. So you'll see somebody, a normal person whose proprioceptive grid is in balance, will walk down usually the dead center of the hallway. Maybe leaning, if you're right-handed, leaning a little bit more to the right. If you're left-handed, leaning a little bit to the left. This also because of social conditioning. In the United States, we drive on the right. In different parts of Europe, you drive on the left. So you might lean towards that side because you're used to driving on one side or the other. But generally speaking, it's going to be in that sweet spot, in that 20% that's in the middle. You're not going to walk like rubbing your shoulder to a wall, or you're not going to be bouncing off, ricocheting. However, people who their proprioceptive system is shot or it's off, they'll bounce. And you're like, they'll actually sometimes bounce, sometimes they'll hurt themselves going down a hallway. You're like, how did you go down the hall? They may have walked down the hall, they may have run down the hall. And the next thing you know, they're bouncing off the wall and they bounce off the other side and they hit their head and they hurt an arm. And you're like, how is that possible? There's nothing hanging on the walls. There's no furniture, and they managed to get hurt. And that's because their proprioceptive system is out of whack. It's out of balance. The same thing is true. You could be driving a car, and these people tend to be more clumsy, which is one of our clues that their proprioceptive system might be off. So they'll trip on their feet more readily. They will bump into they bump into people all the time. Doesn't matter if in front of them, behind them. You're like, how do they bump into people behind them? Well, because their proprioceptive system is in essence off, or off in the sense that it's not calibrated right. They don't sense anything around them. They don't have that feeling where they instinctively can sense that there's somebody behind them. So they'll go backwards for no apparent reason, and then they'll hit the person behind them, and now both of them, are hurt and so forth. So you see this a lot with people of these different types of conditions and syndromes and diseases that I've mentioned before, things that are just out of whack in the body. So that would be the proprioceptive system. And then the next system is the nocioceptive system, kind of an unusual word. So I'm going to write that out too. I apologize for not having the most beautiful handwriting. Your nocioceptive system. And your nocioceptive system, you can look up the interoceptive, proprioceptive, nocioceptive system. The nocioceptive system, that system is tied, it is connected to your proprioceptive system, but it has to do with your nervous system and your ability to feel pain, heat, cold. It's your sensing system of the body, and it's throughout the entire grid work. It's connected to something called fascia in the body. So people who have proper levels of glutathione, you don't have issues with your nocioceptive and your proprioceptive and your interoceptive system, because glutathione works hand in hand with your proprioceptive system, works with your nerves to reduce pain, to give you pain relief. If you have any kind of neuralgia, whether you have nerve pain or you have nerve numbness, numbness of the hands and feet, proper glutathione levels will bring those things into balance. So your nocioceptive system is your ability to sense, to feel hot, cold, warm, vibration, any kind of, it's like a vibrational interpretation through your nervous system, and it's tied through something inside the body called fascia. Your fascia is like this tiny little thin, very, very thin network of tiny little lights that are, it's like a really thin covering over every organ, over every muscle of the body, and it covers your entire body. And that's called your nocioceptive system. So part of what I do is I use these different 8 neurosomatic systems of the body to repattern your brain from physical and emotional trauma. So let's talk about, why am I even bringing this up? I'm talking about the 8 neurosomatic systems of the body because Carol and I decided we were going to talk about grounding today, right? And so no one is so special that your body works differently than others. That's we like to think that we are all individually and uniquely special, no question about it. But for the most part, if you have eyes, they all work the same way. They can interpret the light bands of energy as light is coming from outside your environment. Your eye is not just a camera. It's this circadian rhythm oscillator. As the waves of light, doesn't matter if it's low levels of light, high levels of light, it comes through your eyes, through your retina. It's also absorbed. People think that it's just through like the actual pupil of the eye and that's it. I'm like, oh no, it's so much more than that, because the light bands are touching, not only it goes in through, of course, your pupils, but also the iris also absorbs wavelengths of light. And the white part of your eye, the sclera, that also absorbs wavelengths of light, which causes me to, when I see some of these young people, and I don't want to single out young people per se, but anytime I see an adult, because I don't see little kids, but I don't see little kids doing this, but I sometimes witness adults, not just in social media, but sometimes out in public. And I notice that they're wearing these contact lenses they're all black contact lenses. So the entire eyeball is black. So they kind of look like a reptilian or a lizard or something like that. And I'm like, oh my gosh, if they only knew what they're doing to their circadian rhythms of the body, because now you're blocking out all the essential light elements that you need, to create vitamin A, vitamin D, and all sorts of other things. And so I'm like, short term to wear it for a party or something like that, or if you're on a film for a few months, not a big deal. However, if you're making that a habit moving forward, make no mistakes, there are consequences to blocking out those waves of light, which I've talked about. Just watch one of my episodes on the negative effects of LED lights, and that will start to clue you in. So as we're talking about this grounding element, no one is so special that your organs don't. Everybody's organs work the same. They either work properly or they don't. So our eyeballs and our eye structures interpret wavelengths of light. Our ears, same thing. They interpret wavelengths of sound. So they're all actually the same thing. It's just different devices to interpret vibrational frequencies. So light frequencies, sound frequencies, there's smell frequencies, because yes, the aromas and the stenches that you smell, those are there, that can be measured in terms of frequencies. And I don't know if you've ever smelled a rotten egg, but that is awful. And I'm sure we both had our fair share of rotten eggs, but we're like, oh, have mercy, right? Or you walked by a park where there's like a skunk that sprayed someone or something. That is isn't that nasty? Sometimes
Gets your attention.
Yeah, you'll be walking, it's bright, beautiful, the green trees, right? And the blue skies, and you're walking, and then all of a sudden you stop dead in your tracks. You're like, oh my gosh, if I had paint on my body, it would peel right off. It is like, you're like, oh, now you got to dart through there. You're like, I can't just do my little stroll. I need to dart through there because it's like, oh, I don't want it to get on me, right? That means that your nose is interpreting the vibrational frequency of that smell. The membranes of your nose, there's tiny little receptors in there. And if there's any toxins that are coming from that stench, because it could be a poisonous pesticide that they may have sprayed there, whatever. If there is a pesticide, then your mucosal lining will capture those toxins, provided that you are breathing through your nose and not through your mouth. Oh gosh, we could go down another rabbit hole because people don't think it's that big a deal to be a mouth breather as opposed to be a nasal breather. And that's a complete game changer. Even the structure of your face changes when you start breathing through your mouth instead of being a nasal breather. And we have so many scientific studies, thousands of scientific studies to document the effects and the detriment of being a mouth breather versus a nasal breather. And we have before and after pictures of people who went from being a mouth breather, switching back to being a nasal breather. And then you see the structure of their face changes again. The palate of the mouth changes. And the first thing is they stop getting colds and they stop getting sick. Because when you breathe through the mouth, none of the air is filtered and it goes straight into your lungs. Guess what? Boom. You get everything, every kind of respiratory virus, bacteria, or germ settles in your lungs. And now you're like 6 times in a year having colds, coming down with the flu, all sorts of respiratory complications. You start doing nasal breathing, and guess what? Because now you're filtering everything through your nose, because your nose filters, your mouth doesn't. Your mouth is made for eating, for speaking. Your nose is for breathing. So your nose is the one that does that vibrational frequency interpretation of the aromas and the stenches that are in our environment. I keep on thinking about other people's brand, because that's another, I decided to call it, farts are so like nasty. My brother was the magnate of farts because he knew it bothered me so much. He was terrible. And I'm like, I got to figure out another way to say, something in lieu of farts. So that's why I call it other people's brand. But these are all organs to interpret vibrational frequencies. So let's get back to how this all ties in with grounding, because all these 8 neurosomatic systems of the body, what you are an entire being. And whether you're at home and never go out, or whether you're a little social butterfly where you're never home and you're always out, or if you're someone in the happy medium like myself and like Carol, where, yeah, we spend some time alone at home, we get a lot done, but we also get out and, mingle with a lot of other people out there and have a grand old time. Wherever we go, as one of my friends, their mom, she's a cute little Irish lady, and she would say, everywhere you go, there you are. Everywhere you go, there you are. And so what she was trying to tell us all the time was that everywhere you go, there you are. You take you with you wherever you are. And so these 8 neurosomatic systems of the body, you can be at home and alone and be negative, or you could be home and alone and be positive. It is a choice. But sometimes we are negative because what we're choosing to focus on, right? Everybody has negative thoughts. There's no such thing as someone who's 100% positive all the time. They're telling you that. They're telling you a little white lie. It's not quite accurate, not really quite true.
Right.
But our 8 neurosomatic systems of the body, like I said, that proprioceptive system sometimes comes in contact. We've all felt someone where, like, some people, you stand next to them and you're like, oh, their energy feels so good, right? And then other people, you're like, ooh, you immediately, not only do you pull away, but you'll notice that animals oftentimes will growl at them, or they'll stand on guard, or they'll jet away. And because animals don't only sense, they do have their proprioceptive system is far more attuned, more sensitive, and they don't deny it. They don't rationalize themselves.
Right.
That's my imagination. No, they're like, this person's got a bad vibe, stand on guard, right? And so our proprioceptive systems come in contact with other people. And if somebody is having a really awful day, maybe they're not a negative person, but maybe they just got bad news that someone passed away, or maybe they just found out, maybe they've been, just, making ends meet, and they just found out that they're laid off, and now they're like, oh my gosh, how am I even going to pay? The first of the month is around the corner. How am I going to make that payment? And now I'm going to be off work in 2 weeks. Like, what am I going to do? And so sometimes people are negative, rightfully so. That's kind of like not a pleasant, welcomed situation. But we all come in contact with people experiencing all sorts of things that affects us to the degree that we're aware of that, because we don't need to let it affect us. So many people run around reacting. Oh my gosh, can you imagine? It's kind of like a ping pong table thing going, where you're a ping pong and they're a ping pong, and you're like bouncing off of everybody. And a lot of the world lives like that on a regular basis, reacting to every bit of news, every person, everything. All, that's like, oh, you're all over the place.
Yeah.
Or if you're grounded and you're mindful, I know Carol is she's a maven in transcendental meditation. She's been teaching for many, many years. She knows how to get tuned in, tapped in, and turned on, how to get aligned with herself. And the first rule is, it's like you shut all that noise doesn't exist. You just tune it out, right? You get centered. You get right with yourself. You stop the little chatter, your ego and that monkey mind that wants to drive you nuts, going, look at that, look at this, look at this, look at that. It's like, no, not now. You do that all the time.
No.
This is my time now. Like, shut up, ego. You're not my amigo. You're my enemy. I'm hitting the pause button on you. You've been telling me what to do for way too long. This is my time. And now You focus on the breath, you know, you focus on the breath, you slow down your breath, you slow down your heart rate, you slow down your brain waves, you get tuned in, tapped in, turned on. You start to feel that breath. You start that rhythmic breathing. You're starting to alkalize your body. Just with the first couple of breaths, your chemistry is already starting to change. You're starting to get grounded. The negative energy from your environment, a quick way, if you don't want to do the meditation, I would suggest you do both and. Get outside, get grounded. Quickest way is bare feet, bare hands. You're going outside, get your hands and feet on the grass, on the dirt, in the sand. Touch a tree to the degree that and the taller that tree is, that's giving you an indicator of how deep the roots are of that tree. So if you have a tree that's 30 feet tall, that means that the roots inside the earth are 30 feet deep. So now, whatever negative, like if you had regular, because carpet usually is either wool or synthetic inside homes, you rub your feet there. And the only reason why you'll have a shock sometimes when you touch something or another person is because there's a disbalance of negative and positive energy. You just go outside, touch the grass, touch the dirt, touch, barefooted, right? Then you touch that tree will download the negative and it'll neutralize the negative and the positive energies so that you're grounded. And now you're not going to be having, because you don't have an overload and disbalance of energy. Now you're grounded. Now you don't have sparks literally flying from you, and you will feel better. There's no question about it. Wouldn't you agree?
Absolutely. Absolutely. I do it all the time.
Yeah, Carol's lucky because she lives in the woods, right?
Especially this time of year. Yeah, especially this time of year, I have a big garden. I just go out, and that's where I was all morning. Go out in the garden,
How
get down on my
awesome.
hands and knees and play in the dirt.
Yeah. And so I really want to encourage everybody. That's the quickest. First of all, there's so many benefits to doing that. You're getting grounded. You're receiving the balance of negative and positive energies because you are getting grounded. So if you have too many negative energies on you, you're literally cleaning your body. And now you're balancing out the positive and the negative. And now you're getting centered again. When you're out there playing in the dirt, you're planting, you might be doing stretches, you're out in the sun, there's the blue skies.
Yeah.
Every time you look at the blue sky, that helps your liver, believe it or not. The color blue of the sky helps balance the bilirubin inside your liver. The Taoists have known this for over 5,000 years. Isn't that incredible? And then we know from not only the Taoists, we also know from many Native American different disciplines, not only the Native Americans and the First Nations people of Canada, but the Egyptians, the Incas, the Aztecs, the Mayans. There's so many. The Buddhists have also talked about the benefit of first thing in the morning, looking eastbound where sunrise is and witnessing the sunrise or being in the sun when it first comes out at the beginning of the day, the first hour of two. Looking towards the direction of the sun up in the sky at sunrise does not harm. It's one of the few times of a day that it doesn't harm your eyes. So you can do some sun gazing and sky gazing at that time. And now you're getting grounded, you're getting your vitamin A and vitamin D from the UVA, UVB light, right? There's all sorts of things that are happening while you're enjoying getting your calm, you're centered, you're not frazzled, you're not being rushed, right? So that's a very grounding energy, and it's fun. And you could do it alone, or you could do it with your partner, or with your best friend, or a friend, or with a neighbor. Doesn't matter as long as you do it. Something that you're doing to keep yourself balanced. It's part of your nutrition because again, you're getting balance from, you're getting extra oxygen from those plants and those trees. You breathe out carbon dioxide and the trees are giving you oxygen. And when you offload that carbon, you exhale carbon monoxide and you exhale carbon dioxide is what you're offloading. The trees, that benefits the trees and the plants because they like that. And then you get oxygen from them, which brings me to another thing. In my room, I like to sleep with a snake plant on either side of my bed. Now, you probably are wondering, some of you are wondering, a snake plant, what the heck does a snake plant look like? Well, snake plants don't require a lot of water, but they give out a very high amount of oxygen. So
Mm.
the reason why it's good to sleep with a snake plant on either side of your bed is because you have additional free oxygen that's being emitted by this really awesome hardy plant. It doesn't require a lot of care. I have one on either side of my bed, and I have one here next to my workstation. So let me show you. I have no financial gain or interest in any company that sells snake plants, just in case, because a lot of stuff I do and that I recommend, I don't make any money off of it, but it does benefit you. So I am sharing that with you. So this is what a snake plant looks like. It's actually grown quite a bit over the last couple of years. So this is what a snake plant looks like. And about once a month, you water this baby. You keep it. I keep one next to my workstation. They're kind of, you see them sometimes in restaurants and places like that. But it's a great hardy plant because if you do a little research, check it out on YouTube, check it out also on Google and the different search engines, you'll find out that this plant emits a great deal of oxygen. So it's getting kind of heavy. So I'm going to go put it back down. So those are some of the things that you can do to improve and increase your environment and also to help yourself get grounded. If you have a river, I had a friend of mine, she passed away unexpectedly at 58. It's really, really kind of sad, but in her backyard, her home she had two homes. She had one that was in Raven Gap, Georgia, so beautiful. And in the backyard, she had a little waterfall and she had 3 streams that ran through her backyard and Raven Gap. And so it's awesome. If you have a stream, a river, a lake, any body of water that's natural, gosh, you'd be so blessed if you have hot mineral springs. Apparently, we supposedly have a lot of hot mineral springs in California. So I'm going to make it a point to start going to those here. But putting your feet, getting in to any of those bodies of water will also ground you. As you may or may not be aware, in the ocean, as soon as you get into the ocean, even just the wet sand, you automatically get grounded and your feet start to pull up the 92 minerals from the ocean, seawater, and from the earth. There's 92 minerals. Make no mistakes, 92 is a significant number of minerals. And 9 plus 2, that equals the number 11. Isn't that interesting? And there's very few things around that have that degree of minerals. And all you have to do is put your feet. You don't even have to do a full body immersion, although if you do, that's obviously best. Now, there is something that you can take that's also natural that has 82 of those 92 minerals, and that's Celtic sea salt. So as you take Celtic sea salt, one of the minerals in there is magnesium. When you take magnesium, that's an electrolyte. So as soon as you put a few crystals of Celtic salt on your tongue, that immediately, along with the 82 minerals that you're getting the moment you put those Celtic salt crystals on your tongue before you drink water, what it does is the cell membranes because you have 56 trillion cells in your body, all 56 of them, all of a sudden, the little receptors on the outside membrane, they open up. And now that magnesium is going to pull the water inside each one of those 56 trillion cells. So now when you drink your water, you're properly hydrated where your cells are absorbing the water and the water's not just dancing around the cells. So that's another little tip for you guys. Does that make sense? Do you have anything to add to that, Carol?
No, I don't. That's very good information. That's wonderful.
Thank you. Thank you.
I'm glad you're doing this because we need these reminders, and this will be going on to YouTube or whatever, and I'm going to forward it as soon as we're through and I get a hold of it. It's going to a few people I know.
Okay, that's awesome. That's awesome. And that's why we do these.
Yeah, it's excellent information. This is.
Yeah. And sometimes some of these things that I'm recommending to people, some of these things I've heard people tell me, it's like, oh, I used to do Celtic salt and then I went on vacation or I lived in another country for a month or for 6 months or whatever. I came back and I just never totally forgot about it. Thank you for talking about it because now it's on my radar. Or yeah, I knew about the snake, or I've never heard of snake plants. They're like, oh my gosh, I want to, excuse me, there's a little sneeze there. So now people are like, oh, okay, they're going to run out and they're going to get snake plants and so forth. And they're like, you know, they're not that expensive. That's the other thing. They're a
Right.
vegetable plant. They're hardy. It's not that easy to kill them. So some people are like, I don't have a green thumb. I'm like, well, I'm
Don't need
trying to acquire a green thumb. I'm not great. I can grow some things, but I can't, for some reason, I cannot get a basil. I can't get a basil plant to grow into a bush. I don't know what it is. I keep on trying. My aloe vera is doing good. My snake plant's doing good. My gardenias, I got a few other things that are going good, but for some reason, I'm like, okay, eventually I will figure out the right balance to nurture a basil plant because I love to have fresh basil. I bought 4 of them at the same time, and there's only one little lonely one that's kind of sort of barely alive right now. And I'm like, what am I doing wrong? I'm like, well, how do I, everything else is surviving. So, but the bottom line is that these snake plants are very, very healthy for you to have in your home environment where you're around all the time. And, they say we spend about 1/3 of our lives in bed asleep. So that's why I put one on both sides of my bed. So I have lots of oxygen in my room, and it's towards the head of my bed because I have my nightstands right next to the top side of my bed. And there you go. So
Beautiful.
as far as the polarity set and reset, we'll do part of the polarity set and reset. And so the thing to know about that is we talked about head, shoulders, knees, and toes, and the nursery school rhyme and song that goes head, shoulders, knees, and toes, knees, and toes, head, shoulders, knees, and toes, knees, and toes, eyes out. We don't have to sing the whole song, but what you need to know is that we're going to start off with the head, and there's 3 sets of everything that we're doing. So the first thing you're going to do is you're going to take both hands, and it's like the peace sign. Hey, you're going to peace out. I'm cool, right? Maybe for some of you, you're thinking she's such a geek. She's such a dork. Others are like, yeah, she's kind of cool. Doesn't matter. There we are anyway. Geeky, dorky, definitely a neuro nerd. So you're going to take your dominant hand, and you're going to take your fingers and go from, if it's your right hand, you're going to go to the left side, and you're going to cross over like this. And then the other hand, you're going to cross over like this. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Okay, so there's 8 of them. And then we do 2 more sets. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Want to do the last set with me, Carol?
Yeah, I'll do it.
Okay. So 1, there you go. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8. So 3 sets of 8. Now, every time your fingers, because your brain, we think of it as being one organ, but it's actually, you have your right hemisphere and your left hemisphere. So they're 2 separate lobes, and the right does not share anything with the left, believe it or not. So every time your hand crosses over, it crosses that central meridian line and goes over to the other side, the energy crosses over, which is what you're doing. You're crossing over the energy from the left side of the brain to the right and vice versa. So we do 3 sets of 8. We're in congruence or in alignment with the figure 8 inside your DNA. And because your DNA is highly electromagnetic. It's a great conductor of electricity, not just in your brain, but throughout. So that's head. Now we're going to do shoulders. And shoulders, we're going to do our shoulders. Move my hair back. Okay. So this is a little wonky. I didn't realize that. It's at the end here. I'm noticing I'm kind of a little diskiltered, but I guess it doesn't matter. Well, okay. So shoulders, you're going to take your, just like we did the right hand first, your dominant hand, we're going to take the right shoulder and just think of it as a giant X. So we're going to go crossing down our hand. Our hands are like magnets. Our eyes and our hands take up 40% of the real estate in your brain. That's how significant your visual cortex and your hand, your sensory system, and the energy that comes out and is received by your hands, 40% of your brain's real estate takes up just those two things. So now you put right hand on left shoulder, and you're going to do a giant X from the left shoulder. You're crossing over the middle, over your sternum, over your thymus gland, and then over to the opposite, the right hip. So left shoulder. So I'm going to stand up because I think it'll be easier for you.
Yeah, that would be better.
So right hand all the way down to left hip, and then your left hand down the middle and to your opposite hip. So you're just doing a giant X. So this is going to be 2, and then 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. That's our first set of 8. We have to do 2 more. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Third set. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So we did head, shoulders. Now we got to do knees and then toes. So to do knees, I'm going to put this a little farther back. Hopefully you guys can hear me. Is the sound okay, Carol? Is the mic?
Yes. This sounds okay.
Okay. For some of you, for some people, I have sometimes people who are, in wheelchairs who cannot walk. So some of you who are not able to walk, you can do this sitting down. So I'm going to show you right now I'm going to show you standing up. But for those of you, because some people, again, their proprioceptive system is off. So they can't balance on one foot. So this next part, you're going to take, we did head, shoulders, we're going to do knees. You're going to take your right elbow and it's a crisscross. This is actually called the cross crawl. You're going to go 1. That's 1 set, right? We're going to do 3 sets of 8. So 1, 2, and so forth. I'm going to show you, for those of you who cannot stand up or cannot balance, you can still do this. So you can go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. That's 1 set. We'll do 2 more sets. I'm going to do the other 2 standing up. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. That was our second set. So we have 1 more set to do. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 5, 6, 7, 8. That's our third set. So the next part, you need a spoon for this next part. So, so let me pull my chair up. I'm gonna bring it up to the camera. I don't know if they'll, yeah, I might be able to see. And I don't have a spoon. Yeah, I do have a spoon here because I use them in my sessions. So if you don't have a spoon, you can go get a spoon. I use a tablespoon because it has a bigger surface area. So if you want to get your spoon, you can do that. Do you want to take a second to go get a spoon, Carol, or do you
I will. I'll get a bigger one.
Okay, so we'll give you guys a second. For those of you who are live on YouTube, you can take a minute to go get a spoon from your kitchen. I like to use a nice big tablespoon. And there's multiple modalities that are integrated in this polarity test and reset. The cross crawl is from a Taoist principle. The spoon method that I'm about to share with you is a Donna Eden energy medicine method, which actually has Buddhist and Taoist origins. Okay, so you got your spoon. So you're going to grab your spoon with your dominant hand. And what you're going to do is the bottom of your foot, you're not going to be able to see the bottom of my foot on camera, but what you're going to do is the ball of your foot where your big toe is, whatever, however you normally draw a figure 8 is how you're going to, with the back of the spoon, you're going to trace that on the sole of your foot. If you normally do an 8 going from left to right, then do your figure 8s left to right. If you normally do your figure 8s right to left, then do it right to left. You're going to be doing 3 sets of 8 on the bottom of your foot. The number one thing is don't do 2 circles. The whole idea is to do the figure 8, which is in alignment with the toroidal fields of the body, and with how the movement of the energy and all the fluids of the body with your DNA, everything has that figure 8. So you're just taking the energy on your feet. And because this is metal, and because you have water in your body, you have that magnetic pull of energy that you're actually moving it into a figure 8, and it's going from your feet all the way, it's signaling, it's going up your brain and down the front. So you're going to take the spoon and we're going to start. 1, and you're going to take it all the way down to the heel, and then back up to the ball of the foot, and then back down to the heel and back up to the ball of the foot. Okay, so I'm going to count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. That's the first set. We're going to do 2 more sets of 8, starting at the ball of the foot. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Third set. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Now the other foot. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. That was the first set. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Third set. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So that's 3 sets of 8. So the next thing you're going to do is you're going to take a piece of paper. And when you take a piece of paper, depending on whether your polarity is set or not, some people after we do head, shoulders, knees, toes, they're done. their energy is moving right, and I'll show you right now how to test that. For people who've had strokes and who have more severe neurological conditions, sometimes their energy is still slow, stuck, sluggish, or reversed. So let me show you how to test for your polarity to make sure that it's moving in the right, your energy is moving in the right direction. The way your energy is supposed to go, your brain is supposed, you have cerebral spinal fluid, so your brain is floating in cerebral spinal fluid inside your skull. And then your cerebral spinal fluid goes down your spinal cord in your spine through your autonomic nervous system, and the energy goes down your spine and it goes back up. And when you do, normally that takes 25 hours for it to circle twice, 24 to 25 hours for it to circle twice in a 24-hour period. The only exception to that would be people who meditate and you know how to do, there's a specific type of breath that you can do that then instead of twice in 24 or 25 hours, that cycle would be 6 to 8 times in an hour, let's say during an hour meditation, because of the breaths that you're doing and you're actually moving the cerebral spinal fluid with a specific purpose. So the thing to know is that we're going to test now to see if your energy is going in the right direction or not. So what you're going to do is you're going to stand up, hips, your feet, you want them to be hip width apart. You don't want them to be spread out like a, like a star. No, you want your feet right under your hips so that your feet are hip width apart. You don't want them to be touching, okay? The next thing you're going to do is you're going to take you rub your hands together, and then you're going to take your right hand, you're going to put it on top of your head, and your left hand, and you put that on your belly button. And then you're going to notice if you're leaning forward, backwards, or if there's no change. In my case, I immediately went forward because my energy is going in the right direction. I keep on wanting to go forward. If I switch my hand upside down, if you pull back like I'm pulling back, and some people pull way back, that's showing you that your energy is moving in the right direction. So if you do this and there's no change, or if you see that instead of going back, maybe you're going forward, that's showing me that your energy is reversed. If there's no change, that your energy is either stuck or it's so slow that you can't tell that you're moving a little bit forward or a little bit backward. So if you're like this and it's doing anything other than moving forward, then that means that you need to do the next step. Now, you can do the next step even if your energy's set. This benefits everybody. No one will be harmed by your doing the next step. And so what you're going to do is you're going to get a blank piece of paper, an 8x11, like, from your copy machine, or if you have a pad of paper like this, the 8x10, 8x11 is what's recommended. You'll grab a pen. And so what you're going to do is, and I tell people, you're going to write an entire sheet of figure eights, and you're going to do them whatever size is normal and natural for you. Don't make them bigger than normal, just whatever size is normal and natural. And you're going to fill up the entire sheet of figure eights. So you'll start. I'm going to show you, I'm just going to do one line. And the thing is, I'm going to ask you to date this sheet. Put the date somewhere on there, and you're going to fill the entire sheet with the figure eights all the way down. And then somewhere after you fill it, then find a corner, top left, top right, doesn't matter. Put the date on there. I can tell a lot about your neurological development just by looking at that sheet of figure eights. I have people who they can't do a whole line of figure eights. At somewhere along the line, you'll see a disruption where instead of the figure eights all being in the same direction, all of a sudden they'll switch it where they'll do it backwards. And then others where all of a sudden they switch to a circle on top and a circle on bottom, and then they resume. Sometimes I see where it goes from kind of being more on the messy side to all of a sudden it becomes more legible. Sometimes in that first sheet, it's all kind of, you can see some of the inconsistencies. And as I retest them a month, 60 days, 90 days later, you compare that first sheet with one that was 30 days later and then 60 days later, and it's like, oh my gosh, you can see the advancement and the progression and the regeneration of the nerves inside the body just from looking at that paper. You're like, wow, so much more orderly, this sheet of figure eights as opposed to the first one. So again, something so simple, and we can tell so much from that one little diagnostic. It's a diagnostic for me tool, but it's an easy, simple exercise for you to do. So after you do that entire sheet, and some people I've had where they had to do both sides, 2 sheets. And once they did, usually by the time you do 2 sides of this, people's energy now is moving in the right direction. I have people who do this polarity test and reset. They do it every day because it kind of keeps them going. It feels good in their body. There are people that I've had who just did the figure eights on the bottom of their feet. And that alone was enough to improve the quality of their sleep. So there's a lot of things that are going on in your body as you cross over the energy, you're moving, you're really increasing your toroidal field and doing a lot of different things to your body as you do this. So after you've filled up that sheet, then you go back and you retest. And when you retest, again, you just make sure that your feet are perfectly flat on the floor, hip width apart. Make sure your feet are not touching like this, hip width apart. Right hand on the top of your head, left hand over the belly button. Take a deep breath and relax. Yeah. And so I move forward. Okay, and then get centered again. My knees automatically go up as soon as I put my hand upside down because my energy's moving in the right direction.
Yeah.
That is the polarity test and reset. So I'm going to tell you a little secret. That polarity test and reset can be used for so many different things. I know a lot of people that do muscle testing, and I tell them, actually, when you do that part where you do this, that's called the sway test. You sway forward or you sway back. So you're using your entire body like a giant probe or a giant antenna. And now your body is it's measuring and managing and informing you of what things you should go towards and what things you should stay away from. Because once your energy is in fact moving in the right direction, it's circling this way. It's not circling, like the wheels of a bike going forward. It's actually circling backwards the way it's supposed to. It's supposed to signal down your spinal column and up. Now you are calibrated, so to speak. Now you can use that. Not only are you going to get better sleep, and it's healthier for you, of course, but the other thing you can use that for is you can take any kind of supplement. You could be at the supermarket and you could be going, okay, I'm either going to buy coconut milk or I'm going to buy almond milk, or coconut milk and oat milk. And you're like, I don't really want to get both. I only want to get one. Let me see. And then you can hold the oat milk on your chest, and on your left hand, you put your hand on your belly button. You go, and feet, again, you don't have to be barefoot. Your feet are hip width apart. That's the main thing. And hand on heart, left on your belly button. You hold that oat milk and you're like, oat milk is the best thing for you. And of course, my body goes back because oat milk actually turns into pure sugar when people think it's really good and healthy for you, but it's not. Then you take coconut milk. You take the coconut milk and you're like, coconut milk is the best thing for you, or the best thing for me. And then of course your body goes forward because coconut milk in fact doesn't turn into sugar in your body. It has the good kind of fat that your body can process. It has all sorts of antimicrobial, antibacterial properties, a lot of health benefits. So the bottom line is, if you're allergic to coconut milk, your body's going to pull back. It's going to go boom. And I have people who told me, it's like, oh, now I use this for everything now. I'll be between different types of vegetables, different types of beans. And I go, oh my gosh, but I just had asparagus last night. I was going to get asparagus again. And now my body's going, no. I go, that doesn't mean that you're allergic to the asparagus. It just says that right now your body has had its fill of asparagus. Right. And right now you don't really need it. And your body's like, you don't need that now. Your body's good with asparagus. Get something different. So bear in mind, this is not suggesting that you are allergic to that thing. It's just that your body's saying, if you have that right now, that's not going to give you strength and power. So your body's telling you, whatever this is, it could be a supplement, it could be a vegetable, it could be a canned good, it could be anything that you're eating or putting in your body. It could even be shampoo. Now your body's going, go towards this. Yes, go towards this. Or your body might be going, get away from that. It literally will pull back. And for many of us, like my kneecaps go up anytime something, it's like when I measure and I do that, my kneecaps go up, and because your kneecaps are going up because it's trying to keep you stable from falling backwards. So then your muscles tense up, right? So my body's going, no. And other times it's going, yes. So it's a great, where, like Brian Buffini's mother used to say, everywhere you go, there you are. Now you can test anything everywhere, from food to shampoos to makeup to sprays to you name it. You can literally use that as a tool, and your body will say, yes, this gives me energy. Go more, move forward with that, or get away from that. Or every now and then you'll get a neutral response where it doesn't give you energy, but it doesn't take energy from you. Like, then it's a choice. You're like, well, if it doesn't give me energy, do I still want to get it? It might be chocolate chip ice cream from 31 flavors, at which point I would go, yes, I'm still going to get it. Or you might be going, it's Ghirardelli's chocolate, and I don't really have to have chocolate at this time. And so then you're like, okay, it's a personal choice, but it's not harming you. It's not helping, but it's not hindering you. Okay. All right, my friends and gems. We're 14 minutes past the hour. Sorry that this was a little bit longer than usual, but I think we got a lot of really good content. And if you have any questions about the polarity test and reset, if you have any questions about the sway test, if you have any questions about grounding, about any of the content that we shared here today, feel free to put a comment below. As you know, my friends and gems, I'm here to help and support you in your health and wellness journey. Of course, if you're interested in the cell activation patches, reach out to me. You can always call our hotline, which nobody mans this but me. It's just me, myself, and I. It's not hooked up to a system. So give me 24 hours to text you back or to call you back. That's this number that I'm going to flash here on the screen. That would be for those of you who are outside of the United States and you're calling from Europe or Asia or New Zealand or Australia. That would be +1, the country code for the United States. And then this number, 949-478-2221. If you want to join us on a Zoom, be sure to join us today. 7 p.m. We'll be talking specifically about the patches. Here we go. I'm going to share with you this little graphic so that you have that. You can take a screenshot of that. It's tonight at 7 p.m. You can take a look, and the meeting ID is 714-794-5626. As always, dun, da, da.
Would you send today's to me, please?
Yes, I will definitely send today's for you. I will send you the link, and this is officially live on YouTube the moment we hit end.
Fabulous. You did a fabulous job. I enjoyed it. Perfect.
Thank you. Ciao for now, my friends and gems.
Bye, everybody.
Share this with a friend. Only the people you love and like. Even the people you don't love and like. Have mercy and grace on them too.